welcome to the Eff Your Fears Podcast. I am your host, Ashley Monique Menard. Very exciting today because I have a friend on the show, my friend Kristin Cantwell. She is a writer, she's an improviser, she's an aspiring cat lady. She's also an actor. And she also does real estate. She does a little bit of everything in order to get the ball rolling. She also, I'd like to congratulate her, just booked her first feature where she is doing voice narration. So it's going to be really cool to see what that looks like. First animated feature. So super excited for her. Can't wait to see. And she's appeared in numerous independent films, as well as theater productions, and also The Path, which is currently streaming on Hulu. And she's also written her own works, which she'll talk about here in the show: Confessions of an Invisible Woman and the show Butter, a love story. She sold out the Fringe Festival in Washington, D.C. She is a force of nature. So I'm so happy that she's here and we were able to chat. She's just one of the coolest chicks. So today is just going to feel kind of like a girls gab hour. So yeah, we talk about her career and how she got from point A to point B. And I really loved our conversation. So let's go ahead and dive in. Let's talk about Kristin. Let's see what she's got to say. I am so excited. I loved having her on the show. I love her to bits. So let's bring her out. Is your current headshot a little outdated? Is it in black and white? Head over to Queen Self Tape and get yourself some new headshots. www.queenselftape.com. You guys, I'm so excited. Kristin Cantwell's on the show. Kristin, welcome.
For having me.
Thank you for being here. It's so funny because Kristin in my eyes is like one of my best friends, like on social media. I'm like, yeah, Kristin's like one of my best friends. And then I think about it, I'm like, I've only met her like twice.
It's been more than twice, but yeah.
Okay, 4 times.
I don't know. How many is it?
In person, I think it's only been like 4 times.
At least a handful. We had like the photo shoot too.
Okay. But it's so funny because you're in my day every day.
Yeah. No, I know. Well, especially with the pandemic, I feel like that's just how everybody is right now, is you see everyone online and in virtual. And so that's our friendship now. Yeah. It's so funny. So why don't you go ahead and just clue people in? How do we know each other? You and Josh cast me in Skeleton Crew, the upcoming season of Skeleton Crew. I'll be recurring on that show. And then also your show Demon Doctor, which I'm very excited about as well. The second season of that. I'm playing a role in that one. And so, yeah, we met on a set, a very hot day. It was really hot. Do you remember that day?
It was very hot. Yes, I do remember. It was very, very hot.
I was very concerned about that. It was a July day in a basement, and Josh emailed me the day before and said there was no air conditioning. And it was like close to 100 plus humidity. And I was very nervous about that because I'm a sweater. I get hot. I run hot, and it's hot. Plus you're under lights and camera and people and all of that. And so, yes, I walked into this basement in Brooklyn.
It looks like a dungeon. The room looks like a dungeon.
Isn't that basically every basement in Brooklyn? Very true. I filmed in a lot of Brooklyn basements. They all look like dungeons. It's really creepy. But yeah, I walked in and you had like this big curly wig on. And everyone was just filming, and I just kind of was thrown right into it.
And you just slid in just like a glove. Like you just fit right in. And I am so grateful that you're a part of the shows. And it's just been such a cool experience working with you. And I just think you're such a smart chick. So I'm really excited that you're on the show today. Thank you for being here.
You're amazing. Honestly, the stuff that you do, I remember when I first met you, because we didn't know each other. I walked in, you've been filming this show for this was the 4th season, right? That you guys
this is the 5th season.
The 5th season.
One we just filmed,
Yeah, so you've done 4 seasons of it, and I'm walking into it and you all have this relationship and everything, and then I'm following you on social media and I was like, look at all she's doing. She does it all. She's got a microphone. She's got our setup ready to go. Look at her.
Yep, I'm pretty fancy. Not really, but thank you.
Yeah.
And I felt the same thing about you. And we'll dive in about the things that you do as an actor in the city, survival gig and all that. All right, you guys. So Kristen and I, we actually just kind of cut this piece out and we put it as a separate thing for you to watch. If you are plus size or interested anything about plus size, Kristen just gave us an epic list. Kristen, what was your list? Like, what was it for?
Fat TV characters, female TV characters that get to live full lives. They're not stuck in that whole, oh, my weight is the only thing that defines me and the only interesting thing about me. Yeah.
So you can check that out. It's a complete episode, but we're here to talk about Kristen. Kristen, my dear Kristen. All right. So we're going to go ahead and just like kind of back up because you and I have talked about how we know each other now. Let's go ahead and flash back and think of you like when you were born. So where were you born?
I'm from Virginia, Northern Virginia. Because everyone's always like, you don't have an accent.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I was born right outside Washington, D.C. in Fairfax County. So I always say Washington, D.C. or Northern Virginia. But yeah, I grew up, my parents have lived in the same house my entire life. They built it, actually. They finished it like right before I was born. And it's really cool. They've got 5 acres of land. It's mostly trees. So it was very, very rural, but close enough to the suburbs, about, 35, 40 minutes from DC. So it was nice. Like you had a lot of trees, you had a lot of nature, but then you can also go see some shows or go to a museum. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. So when you were a kid, like what were you getting into? Like what kind of kid were you?
I was shy. I was quiet. I like to daydream. I had a lot of imaginary friends. I would read. Oh yeah, I had lots of imaginary friends. I fell in love with the TV show. So I fell in love with TV and movies from it when I was a kid. It was just magical to me. I think that I was just, it was no screen time kind of a thing. My parents were like, whatever.
Yeah.
And my grandfather introduced me to a lot of like the throwback TV shows. So I would watch like Gilligan's Island and I Dream of Jeannie and Bewitched and all of that stuff in like syndication. And he got me into the Bionic Woman. Did you ever watch that?
Ooh, I've seen episodes of the Bionic Woman. I didn't watch it on repeat though. Like,
yeah. So I watched that when I was a kid. It was on Fox back in the day, like Saturday mornings.
Yeah.
And I fell in love with it. I love all things spy and like thriller and things like that. And so this was like a badass, kick-ass woman that's, saving the world. And she's got these special abilities. And so I loved it. And so I had like imaginary Bionic Woman friends when I was a kid. I thought that I was the Bionic Woman at one point.
Yeah.
She would run, but it was always done in slow motion. Like the way, because it was 1970s when this was filmed. And so they didn't have the effects that they have today. And so it was slow motion and like a sound effect and all of that. And so I would run as a Bionic Woman and it would be like slow motion running.
I love slow-mo running.
That was me as a child. I was like the weird, imaginative, shy kid. Yeah.
So at what point did art start to become something that you found a passion for?
It was always my thing. Like I said, I fell in love with TV and movies, and I verbalized it from a young age that this is what I wanted to do. And I went to Catholic school, and so it wasn't like a huge arts program. There wasn't theater or anything like that until I got into high school. But before that, I think I begged to go to like a theater camp over the summer. And so my mom found another like a small little program nearby, and so I went to theater camp. I was in the Ugly Duckling.
Oh, the show. I was thinking, that's not the name of the group, is it?
No.
What a terrible name for a theater group.
No, it was the show we did was the Ugly Duckling.
Oh, that's so funny. I mean, to write that down. That's so funny.
And because I think because I had read, I love to read and I was good at reading and all of that. And so that's what helped me with stuff like that. Like when I was first starting out. And so I felt like I found my people. Yeah. So I also wanted to, I would beg my mom. They used to do, I don't think they still do it. They probably might actually, especially not now with COVID times, but like the open call search for like kids kind of a thing.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And I would beg to go to this. And my mom was always like, no, this is not happening. No. And I was like, oh, but I could become a child actor. And she was like, no, it's not happening. We're not doing this. So I verbalized it from a young age. And then I started doing theater in high school and then went to college for theater. It was like a fight the entire time. My parents were like, there's nothing else. Come on. Like, this isn't a stable career path. So it was something that I'd wanted since I was a kid, It's something that I kept verbalizing and saying, this is what I want to do. And so they were like, okay, go do it.
Mm-hmm. Where'd you go to school?
For college, I went to Mary Washington. It was Mary Washington College when I went, and then it became the University of Mary Washington. So I don't really know what to call it now. So it's now the University of Mary Washington. It's in Fredericksburg, Virginia. It's about an hour south of D.C. It's the only public college that's named after a woman.
Oh, wow.
Which is kind of cool. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
It was, it's liberal arts. It was all women, like way back in the day. And then it went co-ed and liberal arts in the 70s. It was a teacher's college.
Oh,
it used to be part of UVA and was like a teacher's college. And then it segued into liberal arts and co-ed. And yeah.
What'd you major in?
Theater.
Yeah. Awesome. So there you are. You're doing theater. What was your theater experience like in college?
I have issues with educational theater. It wasn't great. It was, look, I learned a lot after I name checked the school, and then I'm like, it wasn't great. No, so
I went to AMDA and it wasn't great either. It has its pros and its cons,
Yeah,
like all things do.
I'm sure everywhere has it. I mean, look, I learned that you have to be resilient, you have to be stubborn, you have to advocate for yourself, you have to go after what you want. I couldn't do that at the time. Like, I didn't have the confidence. I was still trying to find myself. I didn't have the self-esteem and the confidence. And, it just wasn't a great situation because I wasn't really getting what I needed. I was being put in the box, and the box that I was being put into was, why don't you work in stage management? Because you're very organized, you're type A, be a stage manager. And so I did that, and I was good at that. It wasn't what I wanted to do, and so I kept trying to act. And so I ended up mostly doing black box shows in the student-run space. That's when I started writing. And I she's like, yes,
I know where this is going. Go on. And this is where I'm gonna put the visual of your poster like right in the middle. I'm gonna try to see if I can do one of those graphics where it goes boom boom boom, or I could just do this. How about this? Go on.
So yeah, I started writing my own things. I was on one made stage show my entire time in college. I was in the chorus of Trojan Women. And I got a lot of, oh wow, we didn't know that you could talk because they thought that I was quiet. And I was like, well, yes, I can talk. And then I auditioned for another show, and like when you're 20, you don't really know how it is. You're still learning, you're young, your brain is still forming, all of that. But I auditioned for this show, and I remember thinking at the time, wow, I felt the most connected to that from anything else I've ever done. Mm-hmm. That was interesting. And the person that I auditioned with said the same thing, said, wow, that was a really great audition. I didn't get called back for it. And the guy said, well, gosh, really? That's crazy. You should go ask why. And so I went, and the director was the department chair and my advisor. And I said, can you just let me know, what do I need to work on? Because I'm always trying to get better. That's always my thing. Like I want to get better. I want to be the best that I can be. Because I'm like the determined, dogged, persistent person. And he said, I didn't feel that you were ready. I didn't feel that you were ready. And I was like, that doesn't give me anything to work on. Was there something wrong with my audition? Is there something more I can do? And he's like, no, just honestly, you need to face facts. You will not work professionally as an actor until you are 40 and old enough to play someone's mother. Based on my body. Mm-hmm. That was the basically unsaid statement. Mm-hmm. And that crushed me. I was 20 years old. I had very little self-esteem, self-confidence at that point. And here's someone that I looked up to. I had been thinking of as this mentor. And they're saying, well, you don't have a chance. You don't have a shot. You're here taking these classes. And now Kristen is like, well, fuck, I paid you how much money? And then you're going to tell me that? And that's all you're going to tell me? That makes me mad now. But at the time it was just like, oh no, I'm here and I don't have a chance. Like, what's going to happen? Mm-hmm. And then I got mad about it. And then I wrote my first one-person show, which was my senior thesis project in college, because I insisted that my senior thesis was me acting, not stage managing, not doing anything like that. It was acting. Good. And so I created my own show, and I played him telling me that in the show, and he was my advisor for the project too. So it still kind of shocks me that I had the ovaries to do it even then at the time, but I did. Awesome. Yeah, I created my own work, and it was just about being a fat woman in life, in the arts, moving through the world, just my experience. And that was my senior thesis. And then I took it to the Fringe Festival in DC, the Capitol Fringe Festival, and did it there as well. Mm-hmm.
That's amazing. And it was Portrait of a Fat Woman, right? That's what it was called.
Confessions of an Invisible Woman.
Confessions of it. Sorry. I'm totally fucking wrong. It was called Kristen's Story, right? I'm just making up names. It was called Lady of the Night.
Think of the most dramatic 20-year-old, 21-year-old title ever. Confessions of an Invisible Woman. And I was like, yes, it's that one. That's perfect. Yeah. But it worked in the time because, I felt, and I, still sometimes, you're fat, you take up this space, but people try not to notice you. You feel invisible, Mm-hmm. And so that's where that all came from. But yes, it sounds very dramatic.
But how amazing. So there you are, you're 20, you develop your own work and you graduate. And what next? Where do you go next?
So I moved back home to save up some money before I moved to New York. I did the Capitol Fringe Festival. I wrote another show, Butter, a Love Story. And I did that at the Capitol Fringe Festival too, and that was a lot of fun. That's when I really started getting into improv. And so it was like a mix of, it was like a cabaret. I don't sing, I tried to, but it was enjoyable. It was fun. It was like a cooking show, like a spoof on the cooking shows, like a Food Network cooking show.
Oh, I love that.
Like Sandra Lee with her like semi-homemade cooking and all of that. So it was a spoof on like that, her and like Rachel Ray and all of those Food Network people. And that was a ton of fun. And I started doing improv, and then I moved up to New York.
So you get to New York, and what, like New York, moving to New York and joining the theater scene. Like, what were those first couple years like?
They're such a blur at this point, because I feel like I had no idea what I was doing. I was making it up as I went, and I was taking classes. So I moved up here, and the one thing that I knew that I wanted to try to do was, I had heard about Austin Pendleton's class at HB Studio, his scene study class. And so I moved here in December, because I'm that crazy person. And I moved here on a Saturday, and on Tuesday I went to go audit his class at HB Studio, because I had been told, I'd called HB, and they said, oh, he's having auditions, and I, can you come on this day? And I was like, no, I'm moving there on Saturday. And they said, oh, well, when you get here, you can audit his class and ask and see if maybe he'll let you audition. And I was like, okay, great. So I went on Tuesday, I paid my little fee and audited his class. And he had just gotten back from doing a show in Chicago at Steppenwolf. And so everyone was like chatting with him. Do you know Austin? Have you ever taken this class? He's like a celebrity. Like, this is like the character actor's character actor. This man does everything. He acts, he writes, he directs. He's just a delightful human being. And you're like, how does he do all of this stuff? Is he cloned? Does he have multiple Austins everywhere? But anyway, so he had just gotten back, and everyone was, talking to him and after class, and he's starting to go up the stairs, and I had to like run after him, and I was terrified to run after him. And I was like, excuse me. Hi, I'm sorry. They told me to talk to you about auditioning. And he was like, oh, they do this every time. I don't understand why people can't come to the auditions. I was like, oh, I just moved here on Saturday. And he was like, oh. He's like, okay, come on. And so we go upstairs to the top floor at HB, where the administrative office was. And he's asking them, is there a place we can go? Is there a room for her to audition? And they were like, no, everything's booked. And he's like, okay, we're just going to sit at the kitchen table, like sign your thing, like pay what you need to pay to audition, and then we'll sit at the kitchen table. And so we sat at the kitchen table at HB, and he's like, you have a monologue? And I was like, yes. And he's like, okay. Like, I give him my headshot and resume, and I do my monologue. Like, I came prepared. I did From Collected Stories. I don't know if you know that show. That was like my monologue that I did for a very long period of time, because I'd done this show and I loved it. And I did the monologue, like, we were 1 foot apart, like he was right there. And but he prefaced it by going, well, I just let a bunch of people into my class, so I don't know if I have room. And I was like, okay, that's totally fine. I just appreciate the time. And I did the monologue, and I finished, and he goes, that was lovely. What class did you want to take?
Oh,
that was like my welcome to New York. And so I started taking his scene study class at HB. And so I met people that way, which was great. I'd been doing improv before that, and I'd come up to New York for that. And so I started taking improv at the Pit and the Magnet. And so I met people through that. And then I had some actor friends who introduced me to their actor friends. And so I started doing stuff like through my network of people, and then submitting through Actors Access, and just taking other classes and throwing myself into the pay to play, one-on-one and Actors Connection and all the network, all of that stuff. and just trying to figure it out. Like, it was like treading water. It's like figuring out, what do I do? And trying to do everything, and then sort of learning as the years went on, best not to do that. Pick like a focus and go that way. And so I started being very specific about doing comedy, looking to do TV and film, like doing theater, depending on the theater, it has to, because theater doesn't really pay, it doesn't get, you're working your day job and you're doing this theater production, and some of them, they're not great. Everyone has to earn their dues and get this experience. But there comes a time where you're like, oh gosh, I just spent 6 weeks rehearsing this. No one's going to come see it. It was not an enjoyable experience. I'm not making anything from it. Mm-hmm. I'm not really learning from it. Mm-hmm. And so it became very specific about, I will do this, but not that. It has to fulfill me in a certain way. It has to, it either has to pay me, give me something that I'm looking for, like a chance to work on something that I really want to work on, or there's something exciting about the project, someone I want to work with, or it's a part that I really want to do. And so that kind of became my criteria as the years have gone on.
Very strong boundaries you've developed.
They have their moments, but
yeah. Yes. I mean, that's like, yeah, I definitely went through that struggle too, because I would just do everything. I hated telling people no.
I
hated it.
It's still really hard for me. And here's the thing that I will say. I do say yes to a lot of like readings and things like that, because those are shorter experiences and it's a lot of fun. But if it's like a longer process, I just learned I will be a happier human being if I follow these criteria than if I just say yes to whatever, because it's not artistically fulfilling. And if it's not filling my cup, what's the point in doing it?
You guys, you gotta do stuff that fills your cup. You gotta. I totally agree with you. It's so fundamental. And so you like a lot of performers, we pick up a gig, like we pick up a side gig. Can you give me like a couple of the maybe weird jobs that you've had, or have you just had like super chill ones? Like what does that look like for you?
So I've never waited tables.
Lucky bitch.
I've had other weird experiences, but I've never waited tables, because my mom basically in high school was like, if you want to do this, you need to find other skills too, if you don't want to wait tables all the time. And so she had me working in an office from the time that I legally could and picking up office skills.
Smart.
So through college, I worked in an office as well, part-time at the college. And so I made money that way. And so I had those skills coming out. So I had like office work. I temped, I did that. But then I started doing real estate. I got my real estate license. So I work showing real estate in the city. I work for Corcoran. I don't know if I can say that or you care. But yeah, I work for Corcoran.
You're so cute. I don't know if I could say that or if you care, but I care. You can share whatever you want.
I feel like that's boring. That's the boring stuff. The acting is the interesting and like the passion. But the real estate pays my bills. And I've met some wonderful people doing real estate. And it gives me some flexibility in order to audition and take class and work on projects. I don't have to worry about taking time off because I'm an independent contractor, which is great. But it's the roller coaster, just like with acting too, because you work on commission. And so I joke that I'm a double masochist.
Yeah.
Between the two, because it's always like the hustle and the struggle and the working with people and all of that. But so I've done that, and then I'll pick up little things here and there. I used to teach when I first moved here. I taught little kids acting, like speaking of the open calls and all of that.
Oh,
So I worked with the little kids, the little tots, because the actual industry people that wanted nothing to do with the tiny little children. And so I worked with them. And let's see. Oh, I've been doing this thing like you do, like the standardized patient thing. I started doing this thing for a law school where I'm like a client, a prospective client. And so I bring in my improv skills and things like that. There's other improv things that I do that I can't really talk about, but that I do like these improv things. And
cool.
yeah, so that's been fun. And like you develop your skills. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. I love that. So what next? Like what's in the horizon?
So this year's it's been such a weird year, you know this.
Yeah.
I got this microphone. So I've been playing with voice work stuff. Never done any of that. So I'm figuring that out. I'm actually working on my first animated short film tomorrow.
So excited.
I'm
Can you
very
tell us what
excited.
the name of it is?
It's called Kris the Cat.
Oh, Kris.
Yeah, and I'm playing a cat. It's like right up my alley. I'm the cat lady. Yeah.
God,
When
you
I was asked to
guys.
do it, the director who I know said, "Is this too on brand for you?" And I was like, "No, it is perfectly on brand for me. This is what I've been working for years. Please send me all of the cat related projects."
Yeah, I'm not being rude right now. I'm actually looking at your Instagram because like I feel like your Instagram is just your cat.
It is basically, yeah.
Oh,
It's a lot of
so-
my cat.
yeah, it's just like it's cat. It's cat.
It's a lot of
I
cat.
love
I
it.
mean, he's very photogenic.
He's so cute. I mean,
Yeah,
look at
his
that.
name is
Look at
his
that.
name is
Come
Tom.
on. Hey, Tom. Hello, Tom.
got-
Oh my
He's
God,
got
Tom.
I know. He's got big eyes. He's adorable.
Love it. So that's so cool. So your first animated project,
Mhm.
you're playing a cat.
I'm playing a cat, and you know what? So the cat, this is so funny. The cat doesn't talk. The cat literally meows and hisses and purrs.
Mm-hmm.
With emotion, obviously, and meaning and all of that. And that's what I've been doing just for weeks, is just wandering around my apartment meowing. My cat looks at me every time, so I think I'm doing something right.
That's good. That's very good.
It's good. But I got very nervous about it the other day, and I set up I feel like such a moron, but it's so funny. This is my life. I set up a private with my teacher. I take classes now at Kimball Studio, which is great. They're like my artistic home in the city. And I set up a private session to work on it. And I got on the Zoom and I was like, "I'm so sorry. This might be the weirdest private you've ever done. I'm just going to meow at you." And to her credit, she didn't laugh a lot. I laughed more. And it was fun. Like, she gave me some good ideas. So yeah, it was it's been like the week where I'm trying to figure out how to meow correctly and how to hiss correctly and make sure that my purr works.
Oh, I love it. I love it. What a fun project.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. Well, you'll have to keep us posted so we can share about it.
I'll let you know. Yeah. So that acting wise, that, and then I've been writing, I wrote my first TV pilot finally. I've been talking about this for years. Thank you. I've been talking about this for years and it finally happened. And now I'm trying to get a next draft of that. Yeah.
Congratulations. Do you have a name you're willing to share?
There's a name. I don't know if it'll stay or not. But I won't share it. It's
Okay.
Yeah.
That's fair.
We'll see.
That's totally fair. Yeah. I just know whenever I wrote The Art of Blowing It, the name was there before the show. Like I knew the name, so I wasn't sure.
Yeah, the name's been there for a while. So this actually, it started as a web series idea and then it sort of has morphed. And the name that I chose, I don't know if it'll last or not. It depends, because I've added a lot of different elements to it. Because I've gone from like a web series where it's like a shorter concept to, you know, a half hour. And so I don't know. I'm not sure if it'll work. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see what it morphs into.
Oh, that's very exciting. That's very exciting. So I will make sure that there are links below for everyone to be able to follow Kristin so you can see what she's up to. But Kristin, we're nearing our end of our conversation, unfortunately. But I do have a question, and it's the question I ask everyone. When you feel fear start to creep in your life, what do you do in that situation? Like, how do you deal with fear?
You sound like my therapist right now.
Go on.
So there's what I've tended to do, like what the pattern has been and what I'm trying to break, because I am the type of person that normally I burrow if I get like really afraid. Like I just sort of like hide, and get stuck. And obviously that is not a good pattern to get into. So yeah, it's just sort of been like, find the small steps that I can take, like one small step that I can take to work through it. Like this freaked me out. Like, you give good conversation. You're great. This has been fantastic, because I was terrified coming into this, because I don't do this. I'm awkward. And so I was terrified. And so I was like, okay, let me just break it into the small steps. And I 100% procrastinated on everything, like figuring all of this out before we came in to do this today. But I was like, okay, just write down what I need to do and then do it one at a time to get it done. And then sort of just say, fuck it, dance it out. I'm a big proponent of the dance it out method. If something's like, if you're having a bad day or there's something that's like really weighing on you, dance it out. And then just try to take one small step to get to the other side of it.
Oh, I love that. I think that's great. Well, as your therapist, I think that I think you're nailing it. You know, I think you're doing the necessary things that work for you. And hopefully that might be some inspiration for someone out there. And I appreciate you sharing how you deal with it and your honesty. I mean, you know, I know for myself, like one of the reasons that I like talking about fear is because I deal with fear. I mean, I've always kind of branded myself as being fearless, but I brand myself as trying to be fearless because there is so much to be afraid of. You put yourself out there and like rejection, and what's the point? And da 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 da. And for me, it's like talking and hearing other people's stories and journeys. It inspires me.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, when you say fear, to me, I feel it manifests more in me as anxiety, which is something that I deal with. And so that's obviously like the steps that I take. But yeah, like everyone's got it, but we don't always talk about it. And so you have to get better about talking about it. So I love that you do this. I love that people are talking more about it, because we all go through this. Everyone's got their thing. Someone might seem like they have their shit together and like they're doing great and still struggle. And so I think that we just need to be honest. Like we're all at different places in our lives. We all have different things that we're struggling with. And there's nothing to be ashamed of. We're all making it the best we can.
Amen.
Yeah.
One day at a time. Kristen, your time, I appreciate it. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
This has been fun. Okay, bye, buddy.
So what'd you think of the episode? It's done. It was fun, right? Do me a favor. If you enjoyed it, go ahead and go to the social media stuff. Tell us what you thought. rate us on iTunes. If you rate us on iTunes, we'll actually show up so people can see us. How exciting! Let's spread this message, especially for all these incredible performers who are coming on this podcast. Their stories need to be heard, and your story needs to be heard. So please send me a message, comment, like, subscribe. I want to hear what you have to say. And if you're an epic performer out there too, you need to send me a message. Go ahead, DM me, Eff Your Fears Podcast. Can't wait to hear from you. Guys, live out your dreams. Come on, life is too short. I hope that you're on your way to your next step. Literally, I hope you're walking there. Is that where you're going? I hope so. Let's do this. You're awesome. Take care.